People reflected on the death of Mikhail Gorbachev, the last Soviet leader, who presided over the end of the Cold War but lived long enough to see the East-West divide revive during the war in Ukraine. Few leaders in the 20th century, indeed in any century, have had such a profound effect on their times. In little more than 6 tumultuous years, Mikhail Gorbachev, who died on Tuesday at the age of 91, set in motion a series of revolutionary changes, remaking the map of Europe and ending the Cold War that had threatened the world with nuclear annihilation. His death was announced on Tuesday by Russia's state news agencies, citing the city's central clinical hospital. The reports said he had died after an unspecified long and grave illness. Reaction began to ripple through social media, as people came to terms with the passing of a man who played a pivotal role in the end of the East-West divide, but lived long enough to see it revive during the war in Ukraine. Writing on Twitter, former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice praised Mr. Gorbachev as a transformational figure. "He was a man who tried to deliver a better life for his people," wrote Ms. Rice, a Russia expert. His life was consequential because, without him and his courage, it would not have been possible to end the Cold War peacefully. Michael McFaul, a former American ambassador to Russia, observed that Mr. Gorbachev had changed the world. "Hard to think of other individuals who changed the course of world history in a positive direction more than he did," he wrote on Twitter, adding, "Gorbachev was an idealist who believed in the power of ideas and individuals. We should learn from his legacy." Prime Minister Boris Johnson of Britain wrote on Twitter that the war in Ukraine had helped underline his legacy. In a time of Putin's aggression in Ukraine, his tireless commitment to opening up Soviet society remains an example to us all, he wrote. A polarizing figure who was lionized as a global hero of liberalism abroad, Mr. Gorbachev was also castigated by many at home for bringing about the end of the Soviet Empire. To George F. Kennan, the distinguished American diplomat and Sovietologist, Mr. Gorbachev was a miracle, a man who saw the world as it was, unblinkered by Soviet ideology. But President Vladimir Putin of Russia has described the Soviet disintegration as one of the greatest catastrophes of the 20th century, that robbed Russia of its rightful place among the world's great powers. Some analysts view the loss of empire as a factor animating Mr. Putin's invasion of Ukraine. At home he promised and delivered greater openness as he set out to restructure his country's society and faltering economy. He ended the Soviet misadventure in Afghanistan and, in an extraordinary 5 months in 1989, stood by as the communist system imploded from the Baltics to the Balkans in countries already buffeted by endemic corruption and stagnating economies.